Well, hello, all. It is me once again, Lamarian L. Train Shepherd, your resident angry black woman who is petty for justice. Okay, so it has been like a week or so since I posted what I posted on Facebook. For those of you who don't know, um, I guess you have to scroll through my Facebook page and was pretty much speaking to other black people who are from Blue Springs, Missouri, or have had to live their lives in Blue Springs, Missouri to stop being surprised by a lot, or stop being surprised about how many of our white classmates are the way they are, or racist, or have racist like tendencies, things of that nature. And y'all who are familiar with my page know I be posting stuff. Sometimes it's frequent, sometimes it's not. And I be a hot mess. It is what it is. I don't ever mean harm or foul. And normally I post stuff, it is what it is, and it goes by. I had no clue that that post and that video I posted was going to do what it did. You know what I'm saying? Um, and I've had much love shown in my inbox, but also many questions that I've received in my inbox that I honestly don't have a full answer to. And I've been racking my brain all week, and I've been talking to one of my sisters and my friend out here who pretty much is a professional activist. That's literally what he's been dedicating his life to as long as I met him out here. And finally was able to go to a protest yesterday because, you know, capitalism, and I've been blessed enough to have somewhat of a job. So it's kind of been hard to be physically there, and I'm still recovering a leg injury. So yes, I was out there limping and twerking for justice for black people, and was fighting back tears because um thinking about, I don't know, just thinking about a lot of stuff, a lot of things go through your head. And it was the first time in a long time where, even before COVID-19 hit, right? Most people know that I am introverted, not on purpose, just by nature, whatever. But even before that, realizing it has been, and I don't know if this is because I went to not one but two HBCUs to get my bachelor's, that I forgot how good it felt to be amongst people who look like me. It was the first time, and who knows how long that I can remember, that I got to be 100% unapologetically black. Nobody was questioning me why I had a head wrap on. Nobody was questioning me, or I didn't have to think about, was my dancing too vulgar, or was somebody perceive it the wrong way. I didn't have to think about, um, is somebody gonna get me because I'm being too black. All of that went through my head. Like, oh, it was just so much. And then thinking about what I posted and the conversations I've been having, and I finally had a conversation with my mother yesterday. And then I also realized that part of what me and DeAndre Sutton have been posting, like people who are not even super involved in the Blue Springs School District, were starting to share it. And then I noticed that it was a lot of black parents were like, yeah, this is great, you're sharing your stories, but how come you never said anything? My mother, we've had conversations many times, and she's asking me why I never said anything. I had to have kind of like a hard conversation with my mother about maybe why things in our household were never really spoken about. And this is where being black in America becomes complicated, because not only as a black person being dropped in this white environment am I dealing with the rules of the white environment around me, I'm also balancing unwritten rules of being black and the black culture. And again, I can only speak from my experience. It's literally I brought you to this environment for a purpose, for you to get an education, do better. I got to go work however many jobs I got to work because I want you to live this certain type of lifestyle. So certain conversations would just never be had because the parent and the child maybe not, or the parent may not realize that your child's going to have a completely different upbringing than what they had. And even talking to my mother, I talked to a former teacher yesterday for a couple of hours for the first time in like years, and we kind of caught up. And she was really willing to listen, right? And we kind of came to the conclusion that it's a multi-layered, multifaceted problem from the white side, the black side, and all the in between. And then it was seeing posts about being biracial, which I feel like is a very unique situation sitting in the Blue Springs School District and the surrounding school districts, because the school that I went to, we naturally segregated ourselves and I don't think we were very conscious of the fact that we were doing that. And I will take you to a quick story. Like freshman year, mind you, high school graduation year is 2008. So 2003, 2004, I don't know, y'all do the math. Like, it's been a minute since I've been bartending and serving, so the only thing I know how to count is numbers on a paycheck. So do the math. If I graduated in 2008, I think it was like 2004, one of them years, whatever year I was at the freshman center, right? And I think a lot, if I remember correctly, I may not remember fully everything correctly, but it was a little bit of racial tension there. And if you weren't a part of certain groups, you felt it a little bit more. And it was one day we came in because I don't know if they still do it now, but when it was our year to be at the freshman center, mind you, everybody that you saw at the freshman center is pretty much who your graduating class is. And if there was anybody new or added, 9 times out of 10, they haven't gone through the Blue Springs School District before then. Like, high school is their first experience in the Blue Springs School District. So they also rocking with a certain set of unwritten rules too, in the midst of being black and being in this white environment. And this racial tension, not so blatant, but we can all kind of feel it. Granted, we probably didn't know that's what that was, but that's what it was looking back. So we walk into the assembly. I don't know if the freshman center still does it, where every once in a while they have like morning meetings or whatever we called it. And we walked into the gym and they had the signs on behind the bleachers: black, white, probably Native American, probably Polynesian, and then like mixed biracial, yada yada yada. And mind you, at this time my best friend is Indian. Like, her mother brought her to a whole nother country, so that's even a whole nother ball game of people being immigrated to the Blue Springs School District for a whole nother reason, right? And I used to always say that, ooh, excuse me, y'all. I hope I'm really not belching as I'm talking, because that would be super embarrassing, because I don't know how to edit, and I'm not in the mood to start this video over. So I apologize, y'all. I was drinking a little soda earlier. But I digress or regress, whatever. Fill in the proper grammar. So we walk into the gym. The nationality signs are posted. My best friend at the time is Indian, so she's guilty by association because her group of friends end up, being black. And I need to find another phrase, but guilty by association is all I can think of right now. And I think their way of trying to deal with it was asking a set of like poignant questions. And then at the end of it, you see where people are standing are also by race. And I can't, and for the life of us, we never figured out what their point was by doing it, right? Like, we know that there are socioeconomic issues at play, classism at play, racism in a way at play. Granted, we don't have the vocabulary for the word of this time, but that's what's going on. And I think that was their way of trying to help with it. But the problem was there was never a conversation, a real conversation or dialogue before they did that. And we never spoke about it again afterwards. So it always made me wonder, what was the point of that? And y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, because my circle was really heavy in urban expressions, forensics and debate, I was on swim team for like a spec. I wasn't good, but I dibble dabbled in everything. That's just how I was. And a lot of the times, naturally, I feel like people had to choose. You were black, you were white. And by the time I graduated, by the time we made it to the main campus, like our graduating class looked like United Nations. You know what I'm saying? So, and if like you were biracial, it's almost like you had to choose an aesthetic, choose a side. You know what I'm saying? Or if you were able to be cool with both, then you got in with both. But that's kind of like how the vibes were, right? And there was never, and I was also a part of Diversity Roundtable. And my sister reminded the fact that we did that and we traveled, across school districts to talk about different issues, sexism, classism, all that stuff. But I don't think we ever really dealt with the issue of race. And it's ironic that we didn't. Somebody bring back to this point in the near future, discuss the effects or the non-effects of Diversity Roundtable, because we did it, but now what was its purpose and what did we accomplish? I don't really know. But okay, but that's another topic for another time, but at some point I'm gonna have to come back to that. But I'm saying all of this to say was that it was never like really a clear lane for this dialogue ever. And I think me going pre-K through 12, I maybe have only saw 2 black people. Administrative teacher, whatever you have, maybe 2 black people in all the school district pre-K, except for maybe at kindergarten. I think one of my daycare teachers was black, and then Mr. Witherspoon, and then Miss Langston, aka Miss Young, right now. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that because that's also another conversation to come back to. But then it also goes back to, again, who am I to tell somebody how to parent? But it's a lot of people that's making comments on why y'all ain't never said nothing, right? And I need parents to understand, parents who are dropping their kids off in this white environment, sometimes if you don't ever sit down with them and explain to them about the environment that they're about to walk into, they're not going to know to register this as discrimination and or racism. They're not. And I feel like a lot of us were done a disservice because none of our parents really took the time to teach us about our own history, even though we were sitting in these white environments, full white environments, right? Because my post wasn't even for white people. White people just so happened to pick up what I was laying down. You feel me? Like, I really was talking a black person to another black person with the Blue Springs School District experience. But somehow other people was picking up what I was laying down. And the fact that we never really talked about it amongst ourselves. Like, we're all suffering in silence and none of us talked about it. But how could we if we didn't have the vocabulary and we didn't know that's what it was because nobody broke it down to us? Like, I still remember having conversations with my father. He remembers the segregation signs. Like, on my father's side, the aunts, they had, may they rest in peace, had the stories of being sharecroppers. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, let me try to stay focused. This is just a lot going on right now. Well, in my mind right now. And I have to learn to really listen and not jump to anger so much because I really am angry. I'm angry. And I don't know how to necessarily not walk around with anger inside and not explode. I don't explode, but it's anger there. And I think a lot of the anger I carry now when you're learning and you come to realizations about stuff is the fact that you were angry at your younger self for not speaking up sooner, but then have to remind yourself, how could you? You're a first grader. So and me and my mother talked about how I would scream at my teachers, you don't like me because I'm black. And she remembers hearing me that, but she didn't stop to have a real in-depth conversation about why I was feeling the way I was feeling. that's a teachable moment. Why do you feel like nobody likes you because you're black? My white teachers may not understand our culture as black people, and I may not fully understand my culture as a black people because I'm not immersed in it except for on the weekends and special occasions and in the summer. I remember it's a certain group of girls that I became friends with that pretty much grew up cousin sisters, and I would see them, and even with some of my cousins, and I realized I would drop the N word so much being around other black people because for a couple of days, like, I got to listen to hip hop music and dance and use certain words that I couldn't use being at school and around my white classmates because like I didn't want to be the scary black person. So you kind of build an air of, or you kind of learn again that code switching form of trauma. So when parents or in these comments talking about, yeah, that's great, but how come you don't say nothing? I'm gonna need parents parents of black kids and kids of color that when you're dropping us off in these environments, that you have to have the unfair conversation with your black kids going to these environments. It's just a part of our life now. It should have been there, and I'm probably going to have these unfair conversations with my future kids if I ever have any. It's not right, but it's what needs to be done. Because I got the rules of how to assimilate in with the white people, but I also never got the rules of how to stand up for myself as a black person. That just kind of came along as I got older with the territory. So I need black people, parents of black kids in these white environments to understand that we're talking about minors. We're talking about people who are children, right? And this is where being black in America becomes complicated because a lot of black folks and we share the experience of taking on adult responsibilities way early, and our parents picking and choosing when to treat us adult like, and then in the same breath say stay in a child's place, right? I'm trying not to get into too much family business because I also need black folks to understand that as we're seeing this Black Lives movement and all that, that unfortunately it's bigger than Breonna Taylor, it's bigger than George Floyd, it's bigger than Sandra Bland and all of that. Like, if Blue Springs is not careful, we about to be the next city on the map for all of those types of stuff if it hasn't happened already and it just ain't made the news because Blue Springs and Kansas City is a lot smaller than some of these other bigger cities that we're talking about. So when as far as it comes to Blue Springs, like, this is how we try to stop. I don't even know if I'm saying this right, but I hope y'all get what I'm trying to say. Like, granted, like I always say, anybody hear me say, we're not going to see the end of it, but we can plant the seeds for having people in the white environment see us as humans. And it's not fair that we have to educate the people around us. But at this point, what can you do other than tag team each other in and out when we get tired and to be there for one another? Because in order for us to protect our future black kids, even the mixed ones, because people still forget about the one drop rule. And I had a conversation with somebody about that the other day, and that's a whole nother video of family business. But this is how we plant the seed. And when people asking me about how can we, what I've been asked a lot about, if I can go back, what do the administrators and the teachers need to know in order to help? And the conclusion that I have at this moment that I've been thinking about all week is at least to recognize that it's there. I even need my black folks to recognize that it's there, because what scared me is that so many of my black folks that I've been noticing don't even realize it's there. And just because you did not personally experience doesn't mean that it did not, and that it is not happening. Like, I'm reading the tweets and I'm like, so y'all overlooked the fact that a group of black students felt the need to have an assembly at a school in the Blue Springs School District about the racism that they're facing, and nobody has really talked about it. We talk about a lot of stuff in the Blue Springs School District circle, but nobody thought to make that a big deal, is what I'm saying. We need to recognize that is there. We need to understand that the curriculum is not being taught in its full picture. Like, not just in Black history, but in science class. Like, why did I not learn about Charles Drew until I got to Howard University? And he's one of the reasons why we can do blood transfusions. Whether he's Black or not, that person needs to be studied. And it's even great that he's Black. Like, the fact that a lot of these people were born in or were alive in the same time, and we not realizing that because we teach Black history separate from American history, and American history is made up of Black, white, Native American. Again, I get easily distracted sometimes, but y'all get what I'm trying to say. So to all these parents in the comments talking about how come y'all never said nothing, what's really going on, that means I'm going to need y'all to be a little more vigilant about when and how you're sending your Black students into these white environments. And I'm probably going to catch a whole lot of flack because I done already got flack from my mother. So if I'm getting flack from my mother and she known me my whole entire life, I can only imagine what's about to be said now. But hey, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, ask, I feel like it's almost like a form of victim shaming. Maybe that's a reach, maybe that's a stretch, but it's feeling a little bit like that. Like, you're going to a first grader. Like, I'm literally talking about even Black students in elementary. You just know something is not right. You may not know why it's right, but in elementary, you don't really know what racism is. They've experienced it, but they don't have the vocabulary to break that down philosophically. Hey, mom and dad, this is what's really going on, unless it's a blatant N-word. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, that's a bigger conversation, but the point of this video is I've had a lot of questions about where do we start, and I'm saying, at least for Blue Springs specifically, we need to recognize it. Blacks, whites, everybody in between, and validate. These babies are coming out telling their story. And I can't believe I'm old enough to say these babies. But these babies is coming out telling their story. And right now, we don't need a finger wag. We don't need victim shaming. We need, when these Black babies come out and tell they Black ass stories about being in this white environment at Blue Springs School District, this is not the time for finger wagging. I need my older generation Black folks in this environment to listen with open hearts, open minds, wipe these babies' tears, hear them out before we can go any further. We need y'all to hear them out. We need y'all to be over vigilant. It's not fair. It's not right. But unfortunately, we have to have the unfair conversations when we as Black students are being dropped in these white environments, because we're not going to get the access to resources, to counseling, to all that we need being Black. Being born Black in America is already traumatic enough. You know what I'm saying? Whew. Okay, let me stop before I start dropping the tears, because these babies are telling their stories and there's people in the comments talking about why you didn't speak up further. They're babies. They're minors. I am only able to say this after turning 30 and And I'm already angry at my younger self, my baby self, for not speaking up in a way. But then I have to remind myself as an adult, how would you know to express that if nobody's ever broke this down to you? I am a latchkey kid, which means I had to get myself up to go to school and make sure dinner was put on the table sometimes, and make sure the house was clean before Ma got home, or that was my behind. Like, we as Black people have certain things that we go through that's very similar, that may not be fair. And this could be contributing to the reason why a lot of us couldn't speak up, didn't speak, or didn't know we could speak up. It's confusing. All I'm saying is we have to recognize it's there, and when these Black babies do speak up, we need to listen. And then after we listen, we need to be able to move on their behalf, because they're children. Because they're children. And the babies are speaking. And it turned into, I don't know how it became a hashtag, but the hashtag Black at BSSD, I guess if that's our way to start being able to speak up, the fact that the babies have to almost do it, do I want to say it anonymously? That way. Like, we had to wait to social media to realize we was all going through the same thing. And as we go through this Black Lives Matter movement, I'm always going to remind Black folks that when we say Black lives, we mean all the Black lives. Queer, trans, atheist, one drop. Because the one drop rule still applies, y'all. Like, I get it, but the one drop rule still applies. The cops don't care how mixed you are. If you look like one of us, you're gonna get shot just the same. But like I said, that's a video for a whole nother time. But if you are Black, your life matters, and you are valid. And I can go on and on, but I felt like that's the conclusion I've gotten to this week. And I'm going to mull it over some more. And I'm so proud that there was a protest yesterday. If I'm not mistaken, it was in front of Winstead's. I'm just so mad I couldn't be there. But I was out here protesting in spirit too, y'all. Hopefully I'll be able to get back down to the protest next weekend, but capitalism. And again, the start to the answer to that question is we have to at least admit it's there. We have to come out of denial. We have to come out of our comfort zones. And understand that we are going to ruffle some feathers when we tell our story. Because again, my post wasn't even aimed at white people. They just so happened to pick up what I was laying down. And these are unfair questions. I mean, an unfair scenario. But it is what it is. And yeah. So again, my name is Lamarian L. Train Shepherd. I am an angry Black woman. And I will be petty for justice. Black Lives Matter. Native Lives Matter. Biracial babies' lives matter. And that's all I have for now. Love you guys all. Ooh, love you guys. I think I said that right, y'all. I don't know. I'm still in deep thought as I make this video. So hopefully this video is not too ratchet. But again, I love you guys. Love you all. And please keep spreading the word. Please keep spreading the hashtag. And again, any more questions, love, comments, or concerns, hit me in my inbox. Peace.